All right, let's do it live on a Friday edition of Cleveland Browns Daily. I am merely Beau. He is the great Z on a Hug 'em edition of the Friday program, my friend. 6. Come on, baby. Let's go.
Yes, the big news of the day, Baker Mayfield and select starters will play in the Browns preseason finale down in Atlanta, Sunday Night Football. To find out who else will play, Coach says you'll just have to watch Sunday night. Doing a real solid for NBC here.
Him. Really was. And us, frankly, to listen to the A-team of you and Deke and Donovan right here on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Get a chance to listen to it. Look, I could argue this either way. And we've gone back and forth all week about this. Here's the deal. We have really smart people in this organization. This is what they want. And so let's go. Let's see what it looks like. Let's get them out there. My guess is Baker wants to play a little bit. We've seen this from Joe Burrow, Josh Allen as well. Look, I want to play. I want to play a little bit. I want to get out there and face some live bullets. I hope that they're semi-live or like paintball live. I have no interest in the real ones. But nevertheless, it's been a long time since you've played a game, and it's still a long time till you play one that matters. We're still over 2 weeks from the opener, and I think that's part of it too. And this was always going to be new, because it's the first time with 3 preseason games. So there's a lot of things that factor into it. I don't know how long this decision has been known for, but it's made public today.
Right, and I'm sure it's been known all week, and the Browns were preparing accordingly for it. But I think Baker wants to get out there, get some reps. I think the coaches want to see him. And, we'll have my conversation with Alex Van Pelt a little bit later on, that sometimes it's just a good idea to get, hit once before – it's a game that actually matters, so you can get those jitters out and it's over with. He hasn't been hit, since he was last in Kansas City. So to feel that, get that out of the way. Hopefully he doesn't get hit. Hopefully it's a clean pocket and
I was just gonna say
it's all clean all
maybe
year
not
long.
so much,
but
right.
Yeah, we'll get to see him out there. And then he said select starters. I think it will be Baker to get that work. And when you think about the receivers that might or might not be out there, the guys that will be who have played in the preseason games. Now, we don't know if Hollywood will be available, but certainly Donovan Peoples-Jones has been, the star of camp and Baker's go-to guy. I'm not sure if we'll see Jarvis or Odell. I'm not sure if we'll see anybody else, because we've got to watch. I definitely don't think we'd see Odell, but we're going to have to watch, on Sunday Night Football. But hopefully Baker comes out there. I'm sure it will be a brief appearance, relatively speaking. Get some good work, have that footwork look good, the ball come out on time and to the right place, hopefully lead them down the field, and there it is. You'd have to think some collection of the offensive line will be out there to be protecting Baker Mayfield while he's out there. But
let's play a game.
Sure.
Let's play the game. You and I are Coach Stefanski.
Okay.
We're Stefanski. All right, we're going to play Bake, right? All right, we're playing him. So who do you want for sure to be out there with him? The people in front of him.
Yep.
Or as many of them as
capable.
possible.
Sure.
Right? So when we say select starters, this isn't scores, folks. This is just
these are no scores. There are
you
no
and I
scores.
having fun.
They don't exist.
There are no scores. Not on this one. So you're going to want as many of those guys who can go as possible up front, right? I cannot imagine a scenario where Odell Beckham Jr. plays, Nick Chubb plays, or Kareem Hunt plays. I just
or Jarvis probably.
Or Jarvis. Agreed. Jarvis. So you're talking about D'Ernest, Dimitrik, and then so back to stay on point. And then at tight end, is it Hoop and Njoku?
Possibly,
at
or Harrison Bryant. I think you need I think D'Ernest would be with him on more Dimitrik's playing running back again this week, but I think D'Ernest would be the one that would be with him in any pass protecting scenario if Kareem doesn't play. I don't think that you'll see Chubb for sure. I would be surprised if you saw Kareem. But if you are going to see Kareem, it would be, I would imagine, to protect. Same with D'Ernest. I think you need. I don't think you're going to put a rookie out there in a pass protection situation for Baker. If you put him out there, it's to throw him the ball quickly, I would guess, or to hand it off to him.
Yeah, and I would think from this in that same vein, I wouldn't think that you would need to see, certainly not Nick Chubb, and I don't need to see Kareem Hunt run. I know what he is. He led the NFL in rushing.
That's right.
I don't need to see him.
Yep.
I don't need to see him twisted a knee on the bottom of a pile, getting drugged down in the late August in Atlanta. So when we see select starters, and then defensively, I didn't hear coach's presser, but select starters defensively too.
All we know is Baker Mayfield. That is literally the only piece of information that
Can't
we've
imagine
got.
Miles. Can't
No.
imagine Clowney.
No.
Tack's been going for a week, maybe.
He hasn't been participating in team drills, though. He declined to say whether he would or would not play. My guess would be probably not, just because, he's just back now and he hasn't gotten any practice work in. And I think as it comes with Tech McKinley, we know what he can do. We know what his job is. He knows what his job is in this defense, and it's going to be to get him ready for September the 12th more than anything.
So let's go to the linebacker room. Anthony Walker's the one that
Possibly.
maybe he makes his debut.
Possibly, and the reason that he might is, Taki remains out. Jacob Phillips is out. You've got Anthony Walker, Malcolm Smith, Elijah Lee. You don't have JOK because he didn't practice again today due to the sit. You can't wear a helmet, so I can't imagine that we're risking that on Sunday.
No.
So that leaves you with those guys. Now, Tony Fields did return to practice today. I don't know if he would be available for the game. Willie Harvey, you've got, and then Tigre, who you signed this week. So you do have enough linebackers if Anthony Walker didn't play, but he might want to get out there and get a little bit of action. That's what's going to be interesting. See who's in, who's out. Like, I think you could see Ronnie, on the back end. I don't.
Would you see John Johnson?
I don't know. I don't know if you see John Johnson. I don't know if you see Denzel.
I don't think you see Denzel. I can't imagine.
Today you didn't have Troy Hill or Greedy practicing at corner. MJ
Your numbers
Stewart
aren't
did
great,
return.
but don't you think if there's a way to not play Greedy, you find that way?
To not play Greedy or Denzel?
Yeah.
Both. Yeah, I don't.
I'm sorry, Denzel.
Yeah,
Denzel.
I think
both, but Denzel, I can't imagine.
Yeah, I could see Newsome and A.J. Green starting at corner in this one.
Yeah.
But who knows? I mean, look, we have a lot of great players on this team. And we have a lot of confidence in Case Keenum. But there is nobody more directly correlated to our trajectory this year than Baker Mayfield, and he's playing.
Yeah. I'm a little surprised, I will say. I'll be very honest with you. I'm a little surprised that he's playing. I didn't think that he would. There's a mixed bag around the league. I pointed out the teams that are playing him. You can point out the fact that Stafford's not playing, and some of the other veterans around the league are not playing, and they're we'll see in the regular season. I didn't think he would, but I trust completely, obviously, this regime and how smart they are, and probably you have to rely on the player. And knowing Baker the way that we do, I'm sure he wants to sling it around a little bit. I mean, Tom Brady played in the first preseason game.
Right. Look, as long as everybody comes out of it healthy, there's no reason not to.
Right.
I will be very eager to get to the conclusion of this game or the conclusion of his time on the field.
Yeah.
Healthy. And when that happens, I will feel wonderful that he got that work, and here we go. Now we are on our way to Kansas City. It's full speed ahead at that point.
Yeah. In terms of today's practice, Z went over some of the participants and those sitting out. In terms of those sitting out, Troy Hill, Hollywood again out and then ice on the leg there. Then Greedy, JOK, Delpit, and Taki all continue to be down. You mentioned Fields in, and that's a big one for him. Because at some point you've got to get on the field, if you want a shot at this thing, and so that is big for the young linebacker to West Virginia to get on the field.
It is, and it's tough to kind of figure out, if he participated in team drills. Many of the guys on the defense swapped numbers today. And so, for example, Ronnie was wearing number 4. Anthony Walker Jr. was wearing 33. Curtis Weaver and Myles Garrett flopped 59 and 95. So just being out there and trying to assess who actually was who at times was a challenge. Obviously, you know who Myles is, but there was a lot of uniform swapping that could make things, at least interesting to know who was who out there. What you mentioned, Hollywood. We don't know, but we both don't think you'll see. You definitely. I'd be stunned if we saw Odell. Jarvis, I think it's possible that you'd see him in limited action, but maybe not. So that means this is a big day for the guys that you would imagine would play with Baker. Would be Donovan Peoples-Jones, Kaderil Hodge, who is one of the guys that we've talked about that's got you want him in 100%. are there numbers for that to happen? And another good game obviously would go a long way for Kadero Hodge, but I think you'd look at DPJ Hodge and maybe JoJo Natson.
Yeah.
Being your
they
starting.
hooked up yesterday in practice, right, on a deep ball. Was that yesterday or the day before?
2 days ago was Natson, and yesterday was Davion Davis, who just has had a tremendous camp, and I think is a guy that's going to find himself, here with this organization. Now he'll be suspended for the first 2 games, and then a decision will be made at that point. But him, and I think you'll see some Anthony Schwartz, I would hope.
Yeah, I mean that's the other big one out there. So I'll tell you this. With the caveat being, get through it healthy. It sure makes it a lot more interesting Sunday.
Boy, does it. Boy, does it. I mean,
it's a pretty big jump in interest for what, and selfishly, aside from obviously we just get through healthy. But just selfishly, something to do on a Sunday night, my Sunday night's far more interesting now than it was an hour ago.
There's no doubt. And I wanted to fire off a text to Jim and Doug and say, Coach just did us a nice solid. We got, at least some time here that's going to be significantly more interesting than it would have been otherwise. I still think that the true story of this game is who makes these last 5 spots. But now the true story of the game is we get to see Baker Mayfield for the first time in 2021.
Right. Yeah.
Sold.
That's it.
That sells tickets.
Yeah. That is. I wish it was here, but that you're right. That sells tickets, and that creates interest and eyeballs, and also, folks, do not underestimate the how much I'm sure Baker wants to play. I think he talked about that.
Yeah.
I think he desperately wants to play and just knock the rust off. He doesn't want the first hits to be in Kansas City.
I think that's right. I think that's right.
I think that's a huge part of it.
I think there was some illumination, as it were, from last night, my chat with head coach Kevin Stefanski. I thought there were 2 things that came out of that from the Kevin Stefanski show yesterday, and we're not replaying that today, so I'll go through those. And one of those is that I asked him, would you be more inclined to have 2 joint practices? And he said it's something we thought and talked about. He said week 1, you're not ready for it. Week 2, we felt was the real sweet spot. And now that he is open, assuming this goes well, you would imagine that would carry in the future to having his quarterback play in the 3rd. Then you get that great work in week 2. You actually get some real work in week 3, and now you're into the season. So maybe that is the blueprint and the reason why we had 1 joint practice, whereas the Rams went out and tried to have them every week because they had no intention of playing any of their starters. Right. So maybe that was a little thing. And then the other nugget, which is the second part of why this game's interesting, is on Malik McDowell. I know I saw myself do the interview, despite the tweets that alerted me to this.
I know. I saw you do it.
Was that Malik McDowell spent the entire rookie minicamp exclusively at defensive end. And they do feel, and you heard Joe Wood say it yesterday, but they feel there is some versatility where he can play inside or outside on this defense. Mm-hmm. And he's a guy that I think is very intriguing. And that's going to be, that's somebody I will be watching very closely in this game.
I thought those were the headlines. I thought the other thing that was really illuminating from Coach was just his view of the preseason and how, look, we're not going to kick chip shot field goals. Beyond that, we're just going to run it this way, flip it, and run it that way. Very vanilla with the way that they do things. Run things a couple of times. He's like, that's what the preseason's for.
It's like Madden. I like this play.
Yeah, it is.
Let's run it again.
You had a good line. It's the close you get to being like Madden, where you just run it right back.
Yeah.
It was a good job out of you, but it was also incredibly candid out of him in terms of how he views it and the way that he does it, and just why he does the things he does in the preseason. I don't know why no one had done that before when it comes to no kicking chip shot field goals. Like, what's the point?
What's the point?
Give me the plays. Yeah. Like, all I need is plays. I don't need to see somebody hit a 27-yard field goal. All right, you want to hit a 45-yarder into the dog pound end zone?
Sure.
Fine. That's a real-life situation. I'd like to see if you can handle it. I don't need anybody hitting 30-yard field goals. Not interested.
No.
I'd rather see another play. So I thought that was pretty illuminating from him as well. Look, this is going to be a lot of fun now on Sunday, certainly, and you're going to be excited about it. We're excited about it. And it's going to be something where you're going to have a lot of eyeballs on it, checking it out. And it adds another factor. We've talked all week. At most, 5 spots up for grabs. At most, 10 to 12 players fighting for those 5 spots. So now you've got that in the back end of the game, and at the top of the game, you got your starting quarterback, your franchise Baker Mayfield. And in the words of Kevin Stefanski, in terms of who will join him, you'll have to watch on Sunday night.
Right.
Those were your OBM Hot Topics. Ohio Business Machines, preferred copier provider of your Cleveland Browns. Of all the X's and O's for your office, you can call 216-485-2000 or visit ohiobusinessmachines.com. You will hear from a coach coming up next. Jake Trotter joins us on the program today as well. AVP with Z. Lots of fun. Pretty loaded. D. Orlando in today, too, one of our all-time favorites. A lot of treats coming your way, kids. Off and running on a Friday. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Beau Bishop here from my friends at Weather Seal Home Services. Is your home in need of a facelift? New siding from Weather Seal can give you that new home look without the hassle of moving. Kind of a win-win. Weather Seal's insulated foam siding will increase the value of your home, improve your curb appeal, and save you money on your energy bills, both now and the hot days, and winter is certainly coming. Plus, save more with Weather Seal's 7-year, 0-interest financing. Give my guys a call today for a free design consultation and get that brand new home look before the end of the year. Give them a call at 877-351-SEAL or visit WeatherSealHomeservices.com. Coach Stefanski addressing the media within the last hour. Here is a portion of that interaction.
Just reps based on the joint.
All right, you're down. We got 6.5.
Reps, so we'll hold some other guys out. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Yeah, I assume with Baker playing that a good chunk of the offensive line will play in front of him, maybe all 5 starters. Can you say that?
I'm not going to go through who's playing, who's not. I gave you Baker. You got to tune in. You got to tune in Sunday night. NBC wants me to keep it secret.
So what's the thinking behind playing Baker then?
thinking is making a decision based on every single player, what we feel like they need to get.
Kevin, you said you'd speak to some of the players on how they felt. Did you speak with Baker and kind of get his vibe on playing?
No, it wasn't really speaking to them to see how they felt. It was more just making sure they understood what the plan was.
Is this the game where you consult with Arthur Smith on who he's playing to?
Yeah, I talked to Arthur. I talked to Joe, obviously, the week prior. Just what our plan is. It's not really we're not drawing up a treaty of any sort, but just let him know what I'm thinking of doing, and he does the same.
How much do you want to see? How much are you planning on having Baker out there? A series, 2 series, just?
We have a plan, Daryl, but I want to see how it goes.
How do you take in the risk-reward of potential injury versus wanting to get those reps?
Yeah, I think it's football. I think we're trying to be smart about everything we do. That's why I think the joint practices are so important, because it's a controlled environment where our ones got close to 60 reps versus their ones in a controlled environment. So it's all part of it. You have to practice. The way you practice and then the way you play is similar, and it's all good work is the way I look at it.
How much does that offer, Kevin? Obviously, you guys play this weekend. You have the whole week off. How much did that factor in to get some of those guys in?
I think all of it factors in. There's a ton of considerations when making our decisions about our team. This is the third preseason game. I see it the exact same as the previous year's third preseason game, where we just don't have a game next week where mostly would be younger guys. So the way I see it is it's just the third preseason game.
I know you base everything on the entire body of work. How many roster spots would you say will determine this game?
It's a good question, Tony. I think it's been such a competitive camp for these roster spots, and I'm so appreciative of the way the guys have worked. Those conversations are ongoing. So yeah, I think this is all part of the evaluation process. I can't tell you exactly how many spots there are, but I do think these game reps are really valuable in the overall evaluation.
On a few players too. More so on a few select players.
Yes.
JOK, is it a helmet issue with the stadium?
Yeah.
Is Tino able to play Sunday?
JOK is not going to play Sunday because of that helmet issue.
Is that, I don't know if disappointing is the right word, but I'm sure you wanted to get him as many reps in preseason as possible.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but just make him wear a helmet in the weight room next time.
Will you, given the chance, will you game plan for field goals in this game to reassure that?
Yeah, and Tony, honestly, we tried to do it last week, and they had that sack called on Laletta where we were hoping to get a long field goal there. So there's going to be moments where we definitely want to get some opportunities for our field goal unit. Not just the kicker. We want to get the guys being able to block and that type of thing.
Kevin, have you made a decision about Dak? Are we able to see him at team? Can he still play Sunday, or is that going to be?
3 minutes, guys. 3 minutes.
How about here, Nate? But again, I'm not going to go down the roster and say who's playing and who's not playing.
There was some jumbling of jerseys out there, but was Fields finally on the field?
Fields was out there, yeah. The jumbling of the jerseys was to make life hard on you and me. So, yeah, it worked. But that's a one-time only deal.
So the defense did not give you a pre-practice roster?
No, I didn't have the crossword puzzle in front of me.
Kevin, you've got so much continuity on offense and so many new faces on defense. So is it fair to say you'd like to see how your select guys, a decent amount of defenders?
Yeah, I think for all those guys, Nate, whether you're on the practice field or you're in a walkthrough or you're in a preseason game, I think it's great opportunities for guys to communicate with each other, to change the front, to change the blitz on motion. All of that is invaluable. So the guys that are out there on Sunday night will certainly get some reps, but I don't discount the reps that we're getting out here.
Anticipate
2 minutes.
any cuts before Tuesday?
That's a good question for Andrew. I don't know.
Looked like Troy Hill and Richard were new additions to the light guys.
Mhm.
Serious?
No, just being smart.
Kevin, we asked you a bunch about OBJ getting a team he finally has. Just what was it thinking about this being the right time, and how have you seen him kind of respond?
Yeah, I think with everything that we've been doing with Odell and we've talked about it, it's all part of a process, and I'm just listening to the medical staff on what he's ready to do, and so this is the normal ramp-up period, if you will.
Can you give a general conclusion to camp? Next week you'll go into regular season mode. Just anything left that you
didn't get accomplished?
No, I think we stuck to the plan, Tony.
1 minute.
Guys worked very, very hard in some adverse conditions. Just reminding them out there that was not a fun practice. I mean, it was hard, and we've put them in some hard situations, and we've pushed them, and I think that's how you have to handle this. So have we been smart about it? Yeah, but I've seen a group that has worked really, really hard over the course of these weeks, and they understand.
30.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Oh, you guys are up.
All right, good stuff from Coach there. Gibby and I were talking about this before we started the coaches show last night, and Z, I can't remember if you were on yet or not. You very well may could have been, but I'm wondering if the audience picks up on it as well. He is so much. Last year was so difficult. Everything's on a Zoom. Every interview's on a Zoom. You don't see humans. You have very little human interaction.
Yeah.
He's got a great sense of humor that's coming through these interviews. And
Quite-
we've seen it.
Quite dry.
Yes, and just it's amazing. That was fun. That was fun to hear that presser, and you heard some of the reasoning behind it, and you see him leaving the mystery, even citing NBC wants him to keep it a secret, which I thought was great. The idea that this will be the only time you see the number switching on the defense, that's a one-time deal, which I thought was funny as well.
Yeah, apparently he didn't love that. I don't think he loved that.
I can imagine not.
No.
You
Well, it was
know,
hard for
like-
me. And I imagine it's hard for him. You're used to looking out the numbers. You know who's where, what's going on. Also for the offense, you have different people, different numbers all over the place. That would be something. Yeah, he did not. I don't think he thought that lend itself to the most efficiency that everybody could have in today's work.
No, definitely not. But you certainly understand where you're at now going into it. There's been a plan all along, and it'll be put into place on Sunday down in Atlanta when we get a look at some select starters, and you'll have to tune in on Sunday to figure out exactly who that is going to be. We'll get some perspective from Jake Trotter on this coming up next. If your game plan for this season includes buying or selling a home, Howard Hanna Real Estate Services has you covered. Visit howardhanna.com/GoBrowns today. Jake Trotter up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, welcome back into Cleveland Browns Daily. Beau Bishop, Nathan Zegura with you. EOX Vantage has local presence, but a global footprint. It's trusted by some of the world's biggest brands. Here's the deal. This is a testimonial from EOX Vantage client Tom Doherty, who is the Senior Vice President of Specialty Programs NIP Group. This is his quote. I was saying about working with EOX Vantage. If you dream it, they can build it. We generate lots of ideas for them to carry out. They've implemented everything we've come up with. We brainstorm ways to innovate and improve our company, and we use EOX Vantage for their infrastructure, coding, and programming capabilities, technological expertise, and experience working with global brands. We're absolutely thrilled with our partnership. You can learn more from EOX Vantage by visiting www.eoxvantage.com. They will take care of you. All right, let's head out on the hotline for a chat with Jake Trotter. Well, this was an interesting presser from Coach Jake. We know that 6 is now going to play, select starters. You attempted the follow-up on the offensive line. You got nothing, and I hope that you like it. You got nothing, pal. But he did say tune in Sunday, so he's helping NBC. What do you make of the announcement that Baker's going to play, and your best guess on who joins him?
Yeah, I was like one of those dudes in the Myles Garrett pickup games this summer, trying to go up for the rejection and just got posterized at the rim. I think that, if I had to guess in terms of who's going to play alongside Baker, I would assume most, if not the entire starting offensive line, pending health. Beyond that, I don't know that there's going to be a lot of starters that do play. So, I'd probably set the over-under. What do you guys think? 7.5? Would you take the over on that?
Offensively?
No, just the whole team.
Total? I'd probably go over on the whole team.
Yeah, well, and also, too, are we, there's certain guys that are, if they're not starting week one, they're kind of pseudo starters, like the JOKs of the world, that the Newsoms or Greedy Williams. I guess that's fair as well. Offensive starters, I would set the over under at probably 5.5.
I was going to say
maybe we get a tight end in there.
Yeah, you might get a hoop, or certainly Hoop and Chief potentially could be in there with that line. I think that's a good number. It's going to be interesting to see, though, because you want, as you said, Baker to be protected. I think who plays running back with him will be interesting. My guess, if it's not Chubb or Kareem, and a lot of people are of the mindset that we know what we've got there, we're good. No need. Don't you think it's got to be Dearness back there more than anybody else, just because of Dearness's proficiency in pass blocking?
Yeah, and you want to get I think we're going to talk about the 53 in a second, but you just want to get another look at Dearness, and I think if we'll see what happens with him, but if you're Dearness, you want to play as much as possible because you want to showcase what you can do if things somehow didn't work out in Cleveland. I mean, I think we all agree Dearness is the type of guy that could be the number 2 running back for a lot of teams out there. Just shows the wealth of riches that the Browns have at that position, really all the skill positions, for the moment. But this news gives us something to watch on Sunday night, because we've seen the other, we've seen the Demetric Felton, John Kelly show already a couple of times. And so I think this will give us, something else to take away, and just, what does Baker Mayfield look like out there? Nathan, you and I have seen it in practice. It looks really good.
Yep.
I think he's in the best shape he's been in since maybe entering the NFL, and, has just throughout camp had more command of the offense, including in that Giants joint practice, particularly that first day where they just absolutely shredded the Giants secondary. But it's going to be a little bit different, under the lights. So I'm looking forward to seeing what, I don't know how much Baker's going to play, but, even if it's only a couple of series, looking forward to seeing what that looks like.
Yeah, and I'm sure there was a plan all along here, knowing how this regime operates, Jake. But I would also say, and you know him better than we do, that this is probably what Baker wants, right? I'm sure he was lobbying or pushing for this.
Yeah, I think he was lobbying the play. I mean, training camp's long when you're not getting to play any games. I mean, it's long for me, and I'm not doing anything out there. So I can't imagine, going practice after practice, for more than a month and not being able to play literally at all. And again, I don't think it's going to be, what was it, Patrick Mahomes that played? It seemed like he played the entire preseason game the other day. I don't think it's going to be anything like that. But if you're Baker, it gives you kind of a test run heading into the season opener. And really, this game this preseason game is a little bit different. In addition to, for a lot of guys, it's their last look before decisions are made on the 53-man roster. I know a lot of the assistant coaches, they're treating it like they would treat a regular season game in terms of scheming up the Falcons. It's kind of a test run in that sense as well. So, I think Baker definitely at least wanted to get out there for a little bit and, shake off a little bit of quote-unquote game rust.
Yeah, listen, this is a great thing for the game. It's a great thing for our fans. It adds, as you mentioned, some serious intrigue to this game in terms of what we're going to see. It's our first look at Baker Mayfield in the year 2021 in some type of a competitive format. And so that part of it will be fun to select starters. Again, tune in Sunday night. We'll get to find out, as our head coach said. But beyond those select starters, who are you really looking forward to seeing in this game on Sunday night that is on your, as we talk about, maybe there's a handful of spots. It probably might actually only be 2 or 3 spots that are truly up for grabs. Who are you looking forward to seeing here, Jake?
Yeah, I think the Ernest would be up there. And again, he is one of their 53 best players. We'd all agree, right? It's just positional balance is going to be something they're going to have to weigh in terms of figuring out who they're going to keep in their 53. I mean, Kadarius Hodge is another guy that is certainly one of their 53 best players, but on a roster where you already have, OBJ and Landry and, DPJ, the way he's looked in training camp, and obviously Rashard Higgins, and, you drafted Anthony Schwartz with the 3rd-round pick. Those guys just are unlucky in that they play positions that are really deep on this roster. So, that being said, those guys are going to make the team because of special teams, not necessarily because of what they can do, at running back and wide receiver respectively, but what they bring to the table at special teams. And then defensively, defensive line. Good luck predicting who the 8 or 9 guys they're going to keep there. I think Nathan and I think we deliberated on the 53 the last few spots as much as Andrew Berry and his staff is at this point, as many 53-man conversations and text messages we've had all week. I think it's going to be really fascinating, and it's different probably than in the past because I think they've got well over 53 guys that teams would like to keep. I think it speaks to the, we talk about the frontline talent, the Myles Garretts of the world, Denzel Ward, Odell Beckham, Nick Chubb, but they have got a lot of depth, across the board, and it's going to force them to make some really tough decisions. And I thought it was fascinating, listening to Mike Prefer yesterday. I asked him, who are your special team stalwarts going into the season? Because I want to know who he's going to be standing on the table fighting for next week, because he's going to have to fight to keep some of the guys he's expecting to really help him on special teams.
Yeah, and I'd imagine those names, Elijah Lee, Dearness Johnson, Kadarius Hodge, and those are some of the people, that you're talking about. And the great news for Browns fans is there are many ways to kind of slice this pie to get down to 53 that are all very good.
Yep.
They're all very good. And there are things kind of also at that, at their beck and call, I would call it, procedural ways that they can not have to, quote-unquote, burn a spot on, for example, Jacob Phillips, which we've talked about, Jake, and that, look, if you want Jacob Phillips to come back, he must be on your 53 for a day. And I'd go back in 2019, prior to that season, the Browns had a similar situation with their 6th-round pick that year was Drew Forbes. And they wanted Drew Forbes to go on the IR where he potentially could come back. And so they cut Greg Robinson as a vested veteran. And I remember it was Tom Pelissero said, the Browns have released Greg Robinson. They intend to sign him back. He's their starter. It's a procedural move. He's not subject to waivers. He will re-sign and be with them week 1. And that, in the linebacker room alone, that's something that maybe you could do with a guy like Malcolm Smith. So I think this is very fluid in terms of all the tools that Andrew Berry has at his disposal to get to this 53 number. And what a pleasure it is to be arguing about or talking or discussing or theorizing about who guys, 50, 51, 52, 53 are. But that's where we are with this roster.
I'm stealing your Malcolm Smith idea, your proposal, because I cannot – I really like it. I almost wonder if that's something they would actually really do, because it's smart in a lot of ways. And I can get this roster down to 55, 54 with a little bit of conviction behind it. But it is really hard to get it to 53. I mean, to get it to 53, you're cutting somebody like Ernest Johnson or Kadero Hodge or, Elijah Lee, who, I mean, he was the second guy Prefer brought up as a special team stalwart yesterday. So, if you and the Phillips, they haven't put Phillips on IR yet. So that's kind of that's a signal to me that they think he might be able to help them late in the year, despite having surgery on the bicep. So, yeah, I mean, that's another spot that really hurts if you're a guy trying to find a way onto the roster. And the other thing too. I was going back and looking at the roster construction, after the initial 53 last year, and you had 6 corners and 4 safeties. I think they kind of have to keep 5 safeties because, they have had so many nagging injuries back there, and I think we all agree Grant Talbot has tremendous potential, and he really is going to be a driver for a lot of the things they want to do, including that big dime defense that Joe Woods wants to unveil this year. But I mean, the guy, he's coming back from an Achilles injury, injured a hamstring, re-aggravated the hamstring. Ronnie Harrison has dealt with hamstring issues. I mean, the corners, have dealt with stuff as well. So, I mean, to me, I think you have to take a look at but Sheldrick Redwine, by the way, has been out for most of training camp with the ankle injury, or Javante Moffett, who you might be able to, slip through waivers back onto your practice squad. I don't think the roster construction is going to look exactly the same it did at the beginning, last season. I think injuries are a big reason why. I mean, tight end, I think that they, on their initial 53, probably keep 3 and then try to find the 4th guy, which they're going to need this year, by the way, on the waiver wire. Last year they kept 5 and then traded did they trade Farrell Brown to Houston right after the initial 53? I think that was the big surprise, that they kept 5 tight ends initially.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of gymnastics, roster gymnastics that are going to happen, and it's been kind of fascinating to try and predict what they're going to do. But the Malcolm Smith idea would make a lot of sense to me if he is in fact on board, and he's got to be on board to make it happen. But that allows you to keep an Elijah Lee or a Kadero Hodge, and in turn, that's going to make your special teams better, and it needs to be better than it was last year if you're trying to be, a legit Super Bowl contender.
Jake, Nathan and I have been kind of working on a 5 and 10 scale for the last week or so when getting to this 53. There might be at most 5 spots on the roster up for grabs, and there's maybe 10 guys fighting for those spots. Defensive line, we've talked about a lot. We talked about the final number on the offensive line. What does that look like? There's been a lot of talk around the NFL that we've got 6 guards who are NFL guards, and what do you do there? And obviously those are positions that aren't going to help on special teams. Is 5 and 10 too generous even? How many spots do you think are truly up for grabs?
Well, and also too, there are guys that you might think are borderline that are in reality locks, like a guy like Demetric Felton, he's making the team, in case anybody was wondering. A guy like MJ Stewart, who you don't think of as being, a vital part of the defense necessarily, but not only can that guy play special teams, but he can play a bunch of different positions in the secondary, and that type of positional versatility is something this coaching staff and front office really values. So, I mean, I think MJ Stewart is locked too strong a word. I mean, I think he's making the team. I feel pretty confident about that. Yeah, I mean, I think, if you just want to go down the list real quick, running back, we talked about Ernest. Are they going to keep 4 running backs? Receivers, Kadero, give you 6 there. Offensive line, who is the 9th guy going to be? Is it going to be Michael Dunn? Is it going to be Sanad? Who am I? Blake Hance is another, option. I don't even know where to, defensive line.
That's the hardest.
No one is going to get that right. Everybody's going to have their own predictions, and my prediction is that we're all going to be wrong, because there's 5, 6 guys fighting for 1 or 2 spots, and I can make a case for and against all 5 or 6 of them. So, I think McDowell is surging. I feel more confident about him But then does that take a spot away from like a Porter Gustin, who I would have thought coming into camp would have been, a near lock as the third defensive end last year? Linebacker, I think Elijah Lee is kind of the only one at this point that we're probably going to debate. Although, what do you do with Tony Fields, who, it looks like he's starting to kind of heal up from the foot injury. And then safety, you got Sheldrick Redline versus Javonte Moffett. I mean,
and LeCount.
And LeCount, although I think he's probably going to make it.
Yeah.
At this point, but yeah, I mean, you got at least discuss at this point. So, it's gonna be really interesting, and again, they've got some good ball players who they might have to cut a couple of them, and it wouldn't surprise me if those guys go on and really help other teams down the line.
Yeah, I think the Malik McDowell emergence is one that really has kind of maybe thrown not a wrench into things.
Yeah.
This is a wonderful emergence, but you felt like coming in for so long, you thought, okay, there's going to be 4 defensive tackles. They're going to be Billings. It's going to be Jackson. It's going to be the 2 draft picks. Jordan Elliott last year's 3rd, this year's Tommy Togiai this year's 4th.
Yep.
Dowell's looked great. Sheldon Day, if you talk to anybody here,
another one.
They love him. This is a guy who started in the Super Bowl for the Niners 2 years ago, and with Chris Kiffin on that staff in the D-line room. That's the hardest one for me to figure out, and you just wonder if at some point that's a position, the interior of the offensive line, interior of the defensive line. We're starting to see trades pop up around the NFL. If the Browns were to make move, are those the 2 positions of strength from which they would make a move?
Yeah, and the other part of it, I mean, it's kind of like fantasy football with the waiver wire. You wonder, you look at their certain guys, you're like, could we get this guy to our practice squad?
Right.
I think, they're delusional if they think they're getting a guy like Dearness Johnson to their practice squad. But I think those are conversations they're having that could have an impact on who they keep or don't keep. And I told you the other day, during like our ninth meeting about this, I was like, you know what I would do? I would cut cut a bunch of the defensive linemen and just hope you get a couple through, because I think all of those guys bring a little bit something different to the table that could help you. And I mean, you've got, I think defensive line after Myles Garrett, fairly is a question mark, because you're relying on guys that have either been hurt or opted out of last year, or rookies. But I do think you have the potential of like 12 rotational players in some hypotheticals.
Sure.
And so like if you could get a couple of those guys to your practice squad, that makes your defensive line a lot deeper. So yeah, I think that part of it's going to be fascinating as well.
Baltimore gave you the blueprint. I mean, they just traded a 5th-round pick to New England for Sean Wade for a 5 and a 7 in future drafts. So, I mean, that's the blueprint for this. If you have too many, they had too many corners. New England needed one. Hey, we'll take a do-over on a 5, throw us a 7, and that's the way it works.
And
if you don't think you're going to be able to keep a guy, like you don't think he's going to make it through waivers, then you go get your 5th-round pick or 6th-round pick. Dietrich Felton was a 6th-round pick. Donovan Peoples-Jones was a 6th-round pick. I mean, you can find good players in the NFL in the 6th round.
And one thing that this front office is very good at, and one of the things that's fun, when we get to talk about this on this show and we talk about it with you, Jake, is that we have no idea. These are one of the things, like all of this stuff is so in the vault, and AB and his team do such a great job with it internally, but externally, the reason they felt so comfortable last year being able to move back a few spots and pick up that free 5th that turned into Nick Harris was because of the work they do in the perception around the league. And they knew they could still get Grant Delpit who they wanted, even moving back a couple of spots. They felt that very good about that. I don't think the Browns, when they get to this cut-down period, I think that they will have a very good sense of who they can get to their practice squad with a high degree of certainty. It's not going to be 100%. Nothing's 100%. And I think they will have a high degree of certainty of who will not be able to clear waivers. And that will probably shape some of their thinking, because remember, you're not locked into this 53, but it's guys that when moves are made a few days after the fact, it's usually a little easier to get people through. Once teams have gotten their quote-unquote 53 they're rolling with and they're practicing, and then you move somebody. For example, a guy like Davion Davis. Davion Davis's suspension for the 2 games means that he won't be eligible to be waived by us. He'll have to either come on our 53 or be waived after the first 2 weeks. And at that point, it will either lead him directly, I'm guessing, to a 53, or the Browns will have a good shot to get him back on their practice squad, because that's not when people are doing all of these massive moves to set the table. And so that will factor in, I think, into some of these decisions.
Yeah, and I haven't covered the league long enough to know like what the percentage chance of or like how many guys get picked up off waivers, around the cut day week. But I'd imagine, it's not as many as you would think, right?
It's not.
It doesn't happen that often.
It had been for us for a long time, which is
Right.
going to be interesting to be on the other side of it.
Right, exactly.
Jake, it's pretty remarkable how far this roster's come. You remember these conversations we've had with you the last couple of years? And I remember having conversations with you about, starting left tackle. And now you think about where we are, and it's like we're talking about this.
There's been a lot of
last
Greg
couple of
Robinson
spots.
talk on this. A lot of Greg Robinson talk on this
That's
segment, by the way. Which
there has. We've come a long way in a couple of years here with this franchise in terms of the depth of talent, which, as you pointed out, and we've talked about a lot on this show, this is the very bottom, the last few names, and names that you're going to cut are guys who, in some instances, I think especially on the offensive line, you're going to cut some guys who could slide right in and start elsewhere. I think that could happen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, somebody like Michael Dunn, who I think will make the team, but if he doesn't, that guy proved that he can play at a high level.
Yeah. It's going to be fascinating. Appreciate you as always, Bud. Thanks for your time.
Okay, guys. Good to talk to you all. We'll talk soon. See you.
All right. That's the great Jake Trotter. He's
Tremendous.
the best ESPN NFL Nation reporter covering the Browns. That's a pretty good meat sandwich right there on the thinking of putting this thing together.
Yeah, and like we said, very difficult decisions, lots of ways that they could come out of this. But these are tough decisions because you've done a great job creating depth. And lots of times these things sort themselves out with injury, and in the case of the Jacob Phillips one, that made what would have been an even more difficult linebacker decision in essence easier, but now you have to deal with the fact that he's still going to be on that initial 53 should you desire to bring him back. And as Jake said, the fact that he has not been placed on injured reserve thus far would make you feel like he's going to be. And these are the type of things, we won't get any specific answers, I can guarantee you that, but these are the type of things I'm going to get a chance to talk with Andrew Berry in the pregame radio show this Sunday night. And these are the type of questions I will ask him. He's not going to give any specifics, but just philosophically about these things and the options that he has in the roster building, and to carry a guy that you want to get through to IR, and what decisions that make, and the perception of will guys be able to get through, and all of those things. That's what I'm going to ask him. This is a fascinating time to be Andrew Berry, honestly, because
sure, this is his job. This is what he's there. This is it. This is next to the draft.
Yes.
I mean, in free agency, this is him. This is him at his best, at his peak of his
Absolutely.
powers, is handling this. And I think one thing that you have a better handle on it certainly than I do, but even you probably don't have the full scope. There's so many mechanisms at play here
Yes.
that you can use
Yes.
to manipulate 53. So all of those, and we will, guess what? Guess who does have the answers to the test? Paul DePodesta.
That's right.
Andrew Berry.
Andrew Berry.
They have the answers to the test. So they know what they can use at their disposal to take advantage of it. Going to be fascinating. Going to be very, very fascinating.
It is.
Going to be fascinating for us on Sunday, obviously. Baker Mayfield's going to get to play in the game. Alex Van Pelt, he's our offensive coordinator. Will you hear from him coming up next? You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Beau Bishop here for my friends at Raising Cane's. School in session. Raising Cane's ready to teach your taste buds a lesson. Time to feed your brain with hand-battered cooked to order chicken fingers, crispy crinkle-cut fries, buttery Texas toast, and mouth-watering cane sauce, all from Raising Cane's. Raising Cane's is here to help all school year long. Visit canesandcommunity.com to learn more about how Cane's can support your school with fundraisers, sponsorships, and more. Raising Cane's, one love. Alex Van Pelt in charge of the offense here with the Cleveland Browns and overseeing the quarterback position as well. He goes one-on-one with Z before the preseason finale Sunday in Atlanta.
Very happy now to be joined by Browns offensive coordinator.
You're cleared.
Pelt and coach, final preseason game, but the first action for your quarterback, Baker Mayfield. What are you hoping to see from him down there in Atlanta?
You know, obviously you'd like to see, as every week with our offense, we're looking for clean operation, you know, no pre-snap penalties. You would love to have 2 long drives for touchdowns. That's what you're looking for, ideal. Just clean operation, good mechanics, see some third downs, hopefully get into the red zone a little bit, and be a good dress rehearsal for him.
So is one of what's kind of the thought process behind having him get out there, just to kind of get that feel, taste some live action before we get into the regular season?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of different philosophies, but I think Coach feels like he can just get him out there, get his feet wet a little bit, that way so you don't step out on the field Arrowhead the first time in live action.
I mean, as somebody who played quarterback, how different is it if you haven't been hit in a long time when you do finally get hit?
It's not too much difference. Once you get hit, it's over. Like, all the jitters are gone. It's kind of good to get that first one, get knocked on your butt, get back up, and now you're back in the rhythm of real football.
You talked earlier this week about his footwork and the improvements there. Why is footwork so important for a quarterback?
Well, in most systems, it's the timing of the routes and when the routes come out. And it also helps the quarterback understand where he is in his progression. Like, if the number one receiver is supposed to be thrown to on the first hitch, and you take 2 hitches, you're usually going to be late. So on the second hitch, you should move on into your progression. So the feet times up with the route concepts, as well as letting the quarterback know where to go next in his progressions.
So when you watch, if you were only watching a quarterback's feet, you'd have a pretty good idea of where the ball should be, when it should be there, and if the play ultimately was a success.
Yeah, there's no question. You could watch the feet and pretty much tell what happened on the play. We were big in trusting our feet, and that's part of it, getting that footwork and the rhythm and the timing and where you're supposed to be through the progressions.
And is that one of the reasons, too, to get him involved in this game against Atlanta? Because the speed, you can't simulate real speed, even out here, even in a joint practice, when you know you're not going to get hit.
Yeah, no question. There's nothing that replaces game reps for sure. So hopefully we get him out there, have a nice clean drive or 2, and then get him out, get ready for Kansas City.
What's the thing that you've been the most pleased with this camp and off season with the offense?
I think the biggest thing, I'm happy that everybody's back, first and foremost. But the way these guys work, they come out and work is a big part of our mantra. And these guys just do a great job. It was hot today. We had a little longer extended Friday practice than normal, and these guys didn't flinch. They just worked through it all. What's the one thing that you're hoping to kind of either advance or elevate as you get into this season with this offense? Because as you pointed out, you are mostly running it back. Yeah, we are. I think the biggest thing is getting Odell back in there and, seeing how he fits within the system now in year 2. So that's the exciting thing. And he made it, I thought it was a very illuminating comment at one of his charity outings earlier this year, his football camp, and he said, I need to fit into this offense because as they sat and watched, he saw the success. I need to be where the quarterback wants me to be, and not frankly needs me to be at a specific time, a specific depth, etc. And you've seen him work with Baker on the side, and to a casual observer, it looks like that's what they're being meticulous on that footwork and the timing. How critical is that to an offense, especially one like this? It's extremely critical, again, because we rely on our feet. That's a big part of this system is the rhythm and the timing in the pass game. And the work they get on the side is invaluable. It'll transfer over in season for sure. Because it's got to be interesting, especially for a guy like Odell, right? In New York, add a little bit more freelance to the offense and a little more freelance to his game to coming to one that's very structured. But I think he's seen that if I play within the structure, I'm going to be very successful. Yeah, no, there's no question. If we can run a 15-yard comeback at 15 yards and the quarterback takes a 5-step drop and 1 hitch, I think we'll win a lot of games. Anthony Schwartz, the guy we're just starting to get to see out here. His speed, we all know about that speed. When you think in terms of just overall offensive concepts, when you have that kind of speed, both to stretch the field horizontally and vertically, what does that add to what you can do? Well, it definitely gives you the ability to keep the top on the coverage and blow the top off of it. So they're going to have to stay deep, especially when he's in there because he does have that threat to be able to run right by you. as well running across the field. But the speed is unique, and it's something we're looking forward to seeing.
What do you think of a kid like Demetric Felton, who comes in running back, receiver, what is it, both here, it turns out, is the answer. A guy who kind of is built in some ways for today's NFL. 20 years ago we were talking with Eric Metcalf on Browns Daily, and he's like, man, I wish I had come, 20 years later. A guy who played running back and then also played receiver and had a 1,000-yard season at it. What does that kind of skill set do for you, and how's that kind of get the mind working and how we can take advantage of it?
Yeah, he's done a great job. He's come in, he's learned 2 different positions, really 3 or 4. You talk about the receiver spots. He played outside, he's played in the slot. He's played running back as well. He works as hard as anybody out there. What it allows you to do is possibly get some matchups in your favor. If they want to treat him as a running back and put linebackers on him, then that's good for us. And then we still have the ability to get him back in the backfield and run the ball with him.
Donovan Peoples-Jones seems to have made some nice strides here in his second season. What stands out to you about where he's progressed?
And I think the biggest thing is his confidence he's playing with right now. After last season, coming in as a rookie and trying to figure it out, he did a great job, made plays for us last year. So he's come in with a great amount of confidence, and he's had a really, really strong camp.
David Njoku's talked a lot about his own personal mindset and how he is, all about the team and bought in. You look at him, this guy's an athletic specimen. He can do some things that nobody else in that tight end room can do. How would you like to see him continue his progress, and what kind of a role can he play in this offense?
David is an elite athlete, and there's no question. I mean, he's another guy that can run down the field vertically and with great speed. I think the biggest strides for him will be coming in the run game. I think last year, towards the end of the year, he became a dominant blocker at the tight end position, so that's what I'm looking forward to see, as well as his ability to stretch the field.
When you have an opportunity to run it back with personnel, but also with coaching, how fun is that for you?
It's nice. It's really nice. You get right back into it. You come in the off season and you're not, learning a scheme or trying to teach guys a scheme, or you're right back to where you left off. So it's a good thing for us. It doesn't mean anything. It's a whole new season. We're going to have to stay healthy and get lucky and win some games this year. But to have those guys back on our staff, it's a great staff for starters. I mean, across the board, it's an unbelievable staff.
About 2 minutes left in this, guys.
And I think we gelled well together, and we do a great job of game planning together. So it's been fun.
And for a coach, that's got to be such a great experience. I know when I talk to Chad O'Shea, for example, he just loves coming to work and working with you and Coach Callahan and Coach Stefanski, and to have a head coach that fosters that environment. I know it's unique, but is it also just so rewarding for you guys to get to come in and work together like that?
It is. There's no doubt. When you love the guys that you work with, it's great to come to work. I've been in situations where it's not always the case on staffs, and it's uncomfortable and it's not fun. But Kevin does a great job of our culture upstairs in the office with the coaching staff, and I know that to a man, everybody loves working for him.
When you think about kind of taking the next steps, and I've talked with Baker about it, and I know you guys did that huge scheme evaluation at the end of the year to try to figure out what's the evolution of this offense. We have our core concepts, but what wrinkles can we add? And I know we're not going to see them now, and you're not going to talk about them now, but is that something that you're excited to kind of start to unleash a little bit as we get into September 12th and beyond?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We definitely have our core foundation of offense, but after in year 2 now, you can start to expand and grow. Refine what you did well and continue to do that. But at the same time, we'll definitely have some wrinkles that you didn't see last year.
How fun is it to get to go against the speed of this defense? Because that's a thing that, you probably helps a little bit in your preparation for the season.
It definitely does. Thinking about a guy like Jed Wills going against Miles, he doesn't win them all, but it's making him a better player, than Jack again the other side against Clowney. So those 2 guys on the edge and the speed of that defense is definitely going to, get us ready for the season.
You got a taste of 12,000 at first.
30 seconds.
Obviously at the Orange and Brown, some in the preseason, but we all know once the regular season comes, it's going to be a different environment. How excited are you to kind of get that experience fully here with the Cleveland Browns?
Yeah, extremely excited. I know this is a great football town. I love the fans, and they're awesome, and I can't wait to see that place rocking for the season opener.
Coach, it's always a pleasure talking to you. We can't wait.
10.
I know we still have some work to do this Sunday down in Atlanta, but it's shaping up to be an exciting season, and glad certainly that you're back here with this staff.
You're both hot.
To see those wrinkles in the evolution as we go forward.
Yeah, so am I. Let's go. Football time.
It certainly is football time, and AVP is one of those guys. We talk a lot in this season about bringing everybody back offensively, but everybody back in the coaching staff is just as big, and that's something that you said. I don't know that has ever. There's no way that ever happened in your tenure, and it doesn't happen often around the league, and certainly not with 12-win teams. So this is also that moment. It's not just taking advantage of this moment on the field with the players, but also with the staff.
And the staff knows how special this is. And
Yeah.
they love working together, and that's true on both sides of the ball, as well as the coordinators working for the head coach, Kevin Stefanski. But on that offensive side, Chad O'Shea has told us, AVP has told us, Bill Callahan has told us, Coach Stefanski has told us, Stump, Drew. The fact they get to come in and work together and collaborate and create this Cleveland Browns offense is something so special that they know. And we've all had these experiences, right, where you're like, oh, that was professional nirvana. Nothing felt like work. You loved the people you were working with. You had a common goal. You had common, personalities that just worked well together, that meshed. It just clicked. And that's what the Browns have here, and that's special. And I think that there will be times where people are going to come and try to raid this staff, and it's going to take something incredibly compelling to its guys because, as we know, like the grass is not always greener. And that there's something pretty special being a part of this staff here, and I think that it is well known through in this building, and there's a lot of gratitude and excitement and appreciation for that.
Yeah, and I think when I hear Alex Van Pelt talk, and I just see how he carries his business, he's right at the top of the list of guys that, next year at this time, I could see him being the head coach somewhere, could see him being play caller, offensive coordinator somewhere. He's just so good. He's so good, and he's been around some great staffs, and this situation is an awesome one. But he's a really talented dude, and you want to take advantage of having all these guys here at the same time. You'll hear from some luminaries coming up next: Jadeveon Clowney, Greg Newsome, James Hudson as well. You have that to look forward to, which is nice. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Obsessing over something like football can be a problem. If you're obsessing over gambling, it can be dangerous. Do something to take your mind off it, like finding a hobby. If you want some more tips, go to keepitfunohio.com for great ways to keep gambling fun. So really, now that we get the real quickly a couple of news and notes around the league. Jameis Winston will be named the starter for the Saints. Multiple outlets reporting that. No kidding.
Shocker.
And yeah, he will join a list of first-round picks. To be very fair, this doesn't work very often. There are examples that it does. Ryan Tannehill is among them. I think I saw Albert Breer mention Drew Brees. That was a little different in that it was, they had drafted Phillip Rivers, and it's not like Brees busted out, with the Chargers. He was actually really good there. It's just that they liked Rivers more,
right,
and more than they did Brees, but Brees was a very fine player. There's a couple of instances of it, but it doesn't happen very often where there is, for whatever reason, a flame out in one spot and then a resurgence somewhere else. But you have to give Winston credit. And by the way, former Buckeye Dwayne Haskins is attempting to do this as well in a very similar way. You have to give Winston credit for going to the one place that is essentially a quarterback finishing school. And then the other thing about this is crazy is the LASIK part of it. I mean,
yeah.
That's the other thing that's pretty crazy, right?
And seeing, I would imagine, would be important.
Kind of a big deal, yeah. So he looks great, and he will give them something offensively that they have not had. From a fantasy standpoint, what do you make of that Marquez Callaway guy?
He's looked very, very good, and until Michael Thomas is back, he's got a chance, I think, to catch quite a few balls, and clearly seems to have a connection with Jameis Winston. They've got Alvin Kamara as well, who is a stud out of the backfield. Now, Jameis in the past didn't check it down very often, but why would you? When you had the Mike Evans and the receivers that you had, why would you be checking it down to running backs who prior to this past season they didn't have anybody whose name anybody knew? You wouldn't.
To be fair, he did throw 30 picks, so a couple of those maybe could have been checked down.
No, maybe. Yeah, but he also threw for like 8,000 yards and a bunch of touchdowns.
5,000 yards.
Right.
35 touchdowns and 30 picks. Yeah, it's a really an incredible thing. They're only paying him $5 million. So it was a real no risk on their point. I think they only paid him $1 million last year. So for financially, it's nothing. And they needed it, frankly, because they're in cap jail.
Yes.
And so they actually needed their quarterback to be in this situation. So now they get a guy who's a number 1 overall pick. They get him in for next to nothing and kick the tires, and maybe they've stumbled into another franchise quarterback.
Wouldn't surprise me in the least. I mean, the most recent one, and as we talked about all the time, Tannehill's the most recent guy that was a first-round pick that's gone into a different situation, and all of a sudden now he's just considered to be one of the top quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, Darnold will have that opportunity this year.
He will as well.
In Carolina. I've not paid any attention to how he's doing there in terms of how it's gone early on there. We talked a lot in the offseason about how that seemed the spot that was destined to be Deshaun Watson before it got muddy off the field. And now, they go in Darnold, but I have not heard in terms of how that's going down there at all in Carolina with Darnold.
They've been happy with him, and they've got an opportunity with DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Terrace Marshall, Christian McCaffrey coming back, Ian Thomas to put together a pretty good offense. I think if you're thinking on a positive, negative scale, the fact there hasn't been a ton of chatter about it's probably good. If he looked terrible, you'd hear about it a lot. He just kind of comes in. He's looking like a talented young quarterback, and he's going to have some real weapons at his disposal in Carolina.
One of the things that came out of that Seth Wickersham piece, I'm not sure if you saw it or not, on Matthew Stafford, was that Carolina actually provided the best offer for Stafford, and Stafford asked them not to trade him there, but that their offer for Stafford was big. So they were quarterback hunting, big game hunting all off season rather, and they started with Stafford. They moved to Deshaun Watson. And that's the way that goes. The other place that we still don't have anything official yet, but I mean Kyle's all but it's official without being official, is the Jimmy G part of it. I know we have boots on the ground with Pedro out there that feels that way as well. The 49ers, of course, were in on Stafford. Certainly paid attention to that as well. So that is interesting. But that Kyle's been pretty emphatic that there will be a spot for Trey Lance. He's going to play.
Yes, and he's got a unique skill set, and he will be the starting quarterback. It's just a matter of when, not if, that comes to pass. And I think it could end up being next year that's a possibility, but he will have a role this year regardless, as you pointed out, if he's the starting quarterback or not, because he can do some things, especially in the red area, that will stress defenses in a way that Jimmy Garoppolo cannot.
Yeah, I was talking to Nick Wagner, who covers the Niners for ESPN this morning, and one of the things that he said was that it is abundantly clear to anyone who has watched practice the difference between Lance and Garoppolo is Grand Canyon-esque in terms of what Lance can do, and that has caught the attention of the players there as well, that there's another level that he's capable of. He also said, look, it's a lot easier to pull Jimmy if you keep hitting limitations than it is to start Trey and then pull him and then reinsert him back. So which is pretty tried and true in terms of how to deal with the young quarterbacks.
It's very true, and I'm curious if he said, because I've heard, obviously from a skill set standpoint, there is a big difference, but I've also heard from an accuracy, polish, rhythm standpoint, there's just as big of a difference right now in terms of Garoppolo and Lance.
So, yeah, what he said was that, unfortunately, when Lance misses, he misses high. He has a propensity to airmail the ball. And so he misses high and over the top, and then that can lead to interceptions and turnovers. That he's actually really accurate underneath, but when he misses high, and there is a propensity for him to kind of overcook it, and that is the cause for concern there at this point. That that's probably they're a Super Bowl contender, right? Like, there's 3 in that division, and maybe 3.5 if you can find a way to trust Kingsbury. So, that's kind of the thing that they're trying to do. They're trying to walk the line of, we're Super Bowl contenders right now, go win the Super Bowl, and we're going to have a quarterback now that's going to make us a Super Bowl contender for the next 15 years.
Yep.
You can do it. It's a tightrope, and that's kind of where they are. I want to hear from Jadeveon Clowney. He was available yesterday and had some thoughts on the culture on this team and some of the messages that he's had for the rookie class.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's what I told him. It's a good place.
You're staying hot. This is only 10 more seconds.
A lot of rookies in second year. Y'all should be happy that y'all got drafted here. It's been worse some other places I done been, so they should be happy.
Yeah, that's the way that it goes. Among those rookies, Greg Newsome on his adjustment to the NFL. Let's have a listen to Mr. Newsome.
Competition-wise, man, we going back and forth every single day, competing against each other. And, the great thing about it is that at the end of the day, we want each other both to succeed. I mean, as you've seen in the video that they posted with the 2-minute, we're happy for each other, talking about we're going to get a pick in this drive. So it's great to have, a mentor like that who
10 more seconds.
Me to succeed, and I want the same for him. And obviously on his injury, man, I feel for him. I'm sorry about that. He'll be ready to come back. And
that's Newsome speaking of Greedy Williams and that competition a little bit there, obviously, and what that could all be about. Did he mention your enterprise by name there, the 2-minute? It sounded like it. I assume that means the 2-minute drill.
That's what I thought he was talking about, one of the most popular video series in all of professional sport.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
And an integral part of me keeping in touch with this team while I was on hiatus.
Yeah.
That was it. That was a big part of it, certainly.
On the Ponderosa.
That's right. You got to get out there. Always was available to me. Like a warm blanket, the Z's 2-minute drill that was actually 5.5. But that's how I like them. All right. We're going to get some go behind enemy lines with our great friend D'Orlando Ledbetter.
Yes.
He's the best. Covers the Falcons for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. See what the Falcons want to get out of this final preseason game and get a little preview of the NFC South as well. That is coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Beau Bishop, Nathan Zegura here on Cleveland Browns Daily. Imagine kicking back in the evenings in your very own hot tub. Now imagine actually being able to afford one. Northeast Factory Direct buys hot tubs by the truckload. You can get a 6-person hot tub with the lounge or the lights and still afford your summer activities. You think about owning a hot tub that would be a pain? Well, not at Northeast Factory Direct. The hot tubs come with exclusive hardtop covers, so you don't have to worry about safety or convenience. Plus, you're going to get a lifetime warranty on that cover. Looking for a way to stay active? Have these amazing swim spas. It's like a hot tub, but you can adjust the jets, give yourself a gentle current. You could swim against that current, use them year-round. See for yourself. West 140th Street in Cleveland, Lakeland Boulevard in Euclid, or Freeway Drive in Macedonia, or shop them online anytime at northeastfactorydirect.com. When we talk Atlanta Falcons, we do it with one man, and he is the great D'Orlando Ledbetter. He joins us on the hotline of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. D'Orlando, thanks so much for taking the time. Great friend. Let's just start with the philosophy in Atlanta to this preseason. New coaching staff. We haven't seen really hardly any of the starters down there so far. How's it different from the Dan Quinn era in years past?
Yeah, in years past they tried to play them, skipping over 20, but going back to 19, they would, do like everybody else, a series the first game, 2 series the second, then a little bit more in the third, and go into the third quarter. I think a lot of in the fourth game, just let the backups play that one. I think a lot of teams, after going through last year without any games, have decided they're not going to put anything on tape for the opposition. In the exhibition season, they've used it for the backups the first 2 games, and he's going to run the starters. He said the majority of the starters in the third game here, but it doesn't sound like they're going to play much more than a series or 2. So that's a departure from the status quo and how you prepare going into the season.
And that will be kind of the first look at Kyle Pitts in an Atlanta Falcons uniform and seeing kind of the first iteration of this team in the post-Julio Jones era. What can you tell us about this offense, what it will look like now under new direction, but still some very familiar faces in Matt Ryan and Calvin Ridley at the top of the list?
Yeah, it's going to be much like the Tennessee offense without, the heavy dose of running. With Derrick Henry, a lot of motion. Ryan will be throwing off of the play-action fakes, a lot of outside, inside zone, trying to get Ridley up the field and then spraying it around to Kyle Pitts and Hayden Hurst and dumping it to the backs. They're going to have to be efficient in the run game to set up their passing game. Under Coach Arthur Smith. That's what we're expecting from this unit when we finally get to see him.
Yeah, be good to actually get to see him out there. D'Orlando Ledbetter, our guest, of course, legendary beat writer for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution on the Falcons. So I look at this Falcons team, and I, from 30,000 feet, I was looking at this offseason. I thought to myself, boy, how do they view themselves? Do they view themselves as rebuilding? Do they view themselves as contenders? They could have gone quarterback. They didn't. They went Pitts. I assumed when they took Pitts that they would keep Julio. We know that there were, financial ramifications that prevented that from happening. And so I'll pose that question to you. How does Arthur Blank view his team? How do the fans in Atlanta view that team? Do they view it as a contender, a team that's building? How do they see it?
Yeah, it's a team in transition. They hope that they're reloading and not doing a full all-out rebuild. The offense is going to have 4 new starters. The defense is going to have 5 new starters. So, that's almost 50% of the teardown there. So, they're hoping to get better by, adding better players on both sides of the football. Of course, losing Julio is not, he's not replaceable. They'll have to do that as a collective over there on that side of the ball. But the defense only has one way to go but up. They were last in the league in passing, pass defense. So they're hoping that Dean Pease can get that side of the ball playing a little bit better. And, hey, they were in games. They blew them in all kinds of different fashions last year. So, 2-6 in one-score games. So, get half of those, and, you're right in the 500 mix to try to fight for a playoff spot. So they don't feel they had to rebuild all the way. So they did a retool, and they think they can win. But fans are kind of like, hey, wait and see type of deal. They They want to see the W's go up on the board before they get all excited about this football team right now.
Yeah, well, look, offensively, as you talked about the 5 new stars on defense, and if they can hold up there in the bargain, offensively, you talked about Tennessee. That's the 2 tight ends. You brought Hayden Hurst in last year from Baltimore. Now you have Pitts as the 2 tight ends, Ridley and Gage, and then Mike Davis, who I think is a sneaky good running back. What have you seen from Mike Davis and his ability? He really seems to be the real only option in this backfield for this Falcons team.
Yeah, Mike looked good. Folks saw what he could do last year, filling in for Christian McCaffrey up in Charlotte. He had 1,000 total yards. So they need to see him repeat that. But I think the sneaky good one is a move they've made, a shrewd move. I think this guy's looked great in practice running the ball. Is Cordarrelle Patterson at running back, as opposed to wide receiver. So, and he's the number 2. They've been giving him the ball. We'll see him run against the Browns, and it looks good in practice. But hey, they're not really tackling out there anymore, so he's supposed to look good. But that's the sneaky good one to me. I'm like, hey, this might work. This Cordarrelle Patterson Mike Davis combo thing might work. And if it does, then all of a sudden you got a rushing attack where you were 27th in the league last year.
There was certainly a lot of excitement around the franchise. I remember talking to you in the offseason, Orlando, about what they were going to do in the draft, and obviously Justin Fields was from the area, and he's had a nice preseason with the Bears. They instead decide to stick it out with Matt Ryan, and certainly he's been great. It's certainly not been his fault wherever the struggles have been. But in terms of what I would say is certainly starting to become the sunset of his time in Atlanta. Where's he at mentally? Where is he at in the organization? Is there any feeling of the time is coming to an end, or is there a feeling that he could play another 3, 4, 5 years?
Yeah, the feeling is that he can play 3 to 5 years. He got 3 years left on his contract. He's 36. You haven't seen a drop off in his play. He started every game in his career except for 3. 1 in 19, and then the other 2 were back in 09. So there's no signs of any physical drop off from Matt Ryan. And so we all wanted. A lot of people were saying Justin Fields, but the hard conversation would have been, hey, going into Mr. Blank's office and saying, hey, we need to eat $80 million on the quarterback.
Yeah.
So no GM getting his first job is going to go in there and say, hey, I want to get rid of Matt Ryan, and, let's take an $80 million cap hit in the process. So once you put it in context of, the whole team and how it's structured, Matt Ryan's going to be the quarterback, whoever came in here as coach or general manager. So in retrospect, they were too high in the draft too early in Matt Ryan's tenure. Now, if they back up there in 3 years, then, yeah, you can go get, the new quarterback. But right now, Matt Ryan's the quarterback for the foreseeable future.
And he's an excellent player, but that's a kind of – you almost feel like in some ways that becomes an albatross and makes it difficult for an organization to perhaps make the best decision for the organization because you're linked to that. And the truth is it's a sunk cost at this point.
Yeah, if you can win with them, it's okay. They
Right.
haven't been able to win with them. They got the offensive line wrong. It wasn't his fault. They couldn't put the defense together. They wasted draft picks on Vic Beasley, Tack McKinley, paid Dante Fowler. Just didn't do anything around him. So it's not his fault. He earned his money. The
Certainly.
front office is gone, and some other people are in there now trying to put it together. Surprisingly, the line they're coming back, and this, they're giving up over 40 sacks in each of the last 3 years, and the line doesn't look any better. I mean, they drafted some kids, but they're not ready to play. Third round Jalen Mayfield out of Michigan and fourth round Drew Dahlman out of Stanford. They can't help you right now. So, fixing the line has been a problem. Getting a pass rush has been a problem. Matt Ryan hasn't been the problem.
No, he certainly has not. It would be unfair to characterize it that way. But speaking of winning, we've come across our crack producer, Gibbe, has come across a picture of you absolutely dominating Falcons camp in your beautiful purple fedora, Orlando. What an absolute treat that is.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. I had to represent for, my old Cleveland Cathedral Latin people. We were purple and gold, and, I ended up graduating from St. Peter Chanel out there in Bedford. Most of my schools are closed, but we were repping some purple for them yesterday.
Love it.
It looks fantastic. I want to ask you before we let you go, just to kind of, you've been around that division a long time, and obviously Tampa Bay is in a class of their own. But in terms of the other three teams with Carolina, Atlanta, and New Orleans, how would you rank them in terms of where they are right now and the ones best set up for the future?
Yeah, I think right now you got to go Bucs, Saints, Panthers, Falcons. The Saints going with Jameis Winston. Hey, he likes to throw it to both teams, so that's cool. That might bring them back to the pack a little bit. Even though they have won 4 of the last 4 straight NFC South titles. So, they actually pounded the Bucs twice last year and lost them in the playoffs. Carolina is on the move. I really like Coach Rule. They looked real organized last year. They played good sound ball, just didn't have as much talent as they would like. Interested to see how Sam Darnold will fit up there. So, that's not an obvious playoff team, and the Falcons certainly are not an obvious playoff team either, because you would have to say they fixed all their problems on the defensive side of the ball, and they found out how to block people. So, giving up, that many sacks and that many pressures, that many hits, how do you make that go away when you got the same guys, coming back to block pretty much?
Dear Orlando, it is always a pleasure to have you on, my friend. Thank you so much for the time.
All right, sure. Nate and Beau, thanks for having me. Take care. Have a great day.
That is the great D. Orlando Ledbetter of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. When you look at around that division, and we like Jameis a lot, obviously, but they've got issues in New Orleans. Michael Thomas, whether he comes back late September, is most optimistic, or even if it's into October, you can see why the Bucs could be talking about 15-2, 14-3.
Yes.
And chasing down. It's interesting in the NFC, Z. The Bucs and the Packers, because of how strong the NFC West is and how I'm sure they'll beat up on each other a little bit, the Bucs and the Packers are going to be kind of a race for that 1 seed, because I think both those divisions that they're in are down, even from what they were a year ago. And I think both of those teams have a shot at that 15-2, 14-3 mark.
Yeah, they're running it back. They're very talented, and they're not going to face much opposition. Now, the Saints, it felt like, and Orlando mentioned it, had their number a little bit last year.
Oh, yeah, a little bit. They smoked them twice. Smoked them.
Styles make the fight, so you wonder if that will continue. But, yeah, that's a team that is not going to meet much resistance, I don't think, in their division. I'm curious, though, to see if the Bucs maybe don't come out as hot as people think. I think Brady's going to be all over them, because they're a team that must feel like, because of what they did, that we can turn it on and not lose, because that's basically what they did. Was it week 11 or week 12 where they said, we're not losing again? Brady gave that speech in the locker room, and lo and behold, they did not lose again, and they are the reigning champions of the world.
I just don't buy that he would allow that. I just think he's I think they'll come out guns a-blazing. I do.
Too.
I know the New England team sometimes would start, especially towards the end of his career, would start slow in September. But I think it's really set up for them to be in the mix. And I think the only team that's kind of there with them in terms of chasing that type of number 1 seed is Green Bay, because they're set up too, because the NFC North is down across the board. It's down, with the exception of Green Bay. Detroit is in complete rebuild.
Totally.
The Bears have the issues at quarterback.
Yes.
I think they're worse or equal. And Minnesota's got problems, on and off the field.
Certainly. And to your point, and you're going to get beat up in the West so badly just with all the powerhouses out there, that I think it's tough for somebody to come out of the West with a record that would allow them to even contend for that division, for the number 1 seed out there. So they open up Cowboys at home, Falcons at home.
Bucs?
This is the Bucs. Cowboys at home, Thursday Night Football. Falcons at home, at the Rams, at the Patriots. Dolphins at home, at the Eagles. Bears at home. Not the toughest, but that at the Rams, at the Patriots stretch, given the loaded nature of not only the Rams, but the loaded nature of Tom Brady's return to New England that's pretty good. But they could easily be, if they beat the Rams.
That's the only one that I would be like, well, I think that they could lose that one.
If they beat the Rams, they're looking at 7-0, I think, or close to
it. Yeah. And I think when you look at when you go around the NFC, and we'll have a couple of weeks to do this leading into the regular season. We go through the divisions and kind of take a look at everything. But as you start to wrap your head around the NFC, you're talking about Green Bay, you're talking about Tampa Bay, obviously. You're talking about whether it's Dallas or Washington in the East, and then you're talking about you could have 4 out of the West.
Yep, you could.
It's just a matter of if they can get a high enough win total, if their crossover games allow for it. But, I mean, to me, it feels like the Seahawks, the Rams, and the 49ers are locks, barring significant injury to quarterback.
Yep.
Like what happened to the 49ers last year. But if that doesn't happen, those teams are all – they're incredibly well coached. They're loaded rosters. They can beat you in a lot of different ways. They're great organizations. And the only thing that's really holding back Arizona a little bit is just if you believe in Kingsbury. Because Kyler year 3, and they've added some things here and there. They've got studs. I mean, that's kind of the way it feels. Like you want to be – I'm picking my 7 right now. Give me Dallas, give me Tampa Bay, give me Green Bay, and give me the 4 out west.
Yep. I like that. I think that's where you could end up at pretty easily.
Yeah, and you're talking about that, the NFC Championship game likely in Tampa Bay or Green Bay is whichever one of those teams can batter up. And I haven't looked at their cross matchups in terms of, divisions. You just said they play the Dallas though, and I think you said Philly too. So the NFC South must play the NFC East.
Yes, the NFC South does play the NFC East and the AFC East.
Oh my gosh!
So
it is
tough.
in play.
Not
15-2. Yeah, 14-3, 15-2 is definitely in play for Tampa Bay then.
And I would imagine they have to match up then with from the West, right? They match up with the Rams, and then would they play the Packers from the NFC North? Don't you play somebody?
Well, they didn't win the division, though, right? Is that division or is that off of the Super Bowl?
That's winning
the Saints have to play because they didn't win the division, so the Saints would have to probably play the Packers, right?
Oh. Yeah, but I don't see their NFC North game, but I'm looking at this very, very quickly. Saints, Falcons, Giants, Colts. They match with the Colts out of the division in the A. That might be their bonus game. The Colts could be their bonus game.
AFC South.
Somehow they play the Texans and the Colts. Oh, no, the Texans is preseason. I'm sorry. Yeah, they play the Colts. That would be their bonus game. Yeah, the 2 Souths. That makes sense.
Yeah. So, yeah. That's
you're right. You're right. They didn't win the division, so they match with the Bears.
Oh, see? So the Saints have to play the Packers.
Saints have to play the Packers. They match with the Bears, and they get the Rams.
Yeah. So you can see how how many teams on that. You look at that schedule that you just laid out. The only game they won't be favored in is Rams. Maybe.
But they might be.
They might be. That's in L.A., right?
Yeah, their toughest games are going to be the 2 Saints games at the Rams, and then the game with the Bills. I think that will be their tough. They draw the Bills. That's the best team I've seen in the AFC East.
In Orchard Park or
in Tampa, in December.
In Tampa. See, yeah, there you go.
Their final 3 games on their schedule: Bucks at Panthers, Bucks at Jets, Panthers at Bucks.
A lot of Kyle Trask.
Wow.
A lot of Kyle Trask down the stretch, boys.
Wow.
The former Gator going to get some run. Still so much more to come. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Let's get a little help back in the game. Call 1-800-ELK-OHIO for a free case review. Elk & Elk is a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. So the preseason finale will be Sunday. 6 will be involved. Select starters will be involved. That is exciting to see. So you got really two ways of looking at this thing, my friend. You got to look at it from, hey, we got to see 6. We got to see some other starters out there with him. I'd assume most of the offensive line, or certainly all that are healthy. And then it's those bottom roster spots where people are fighting for their NFL lives.
Yeah, that's the intrigue. We get a little appetizer early from Baker, which is going to be fun to see, and then it'll be, okay, who are these guys that are making their case to Andrew Berry that I must be on the 2021 Cleveland Browns and be a part of what we all hope is something special.
30 seconds.
Yeah, that's where it's at. It's going to be fun. You can listen to it right here on ESPN Cleveland. Donovan, Deacon, Zegura.
Let's go.
Sunday. Turn on your TV, turn up your radio. That's the way to handle that.